experience, the Lavender AI machine determined who to kill and was obeyed with military discipline.
So no, I'm not anti-Semitic, honest. I couldn't give a damn what you call me. I'm going to say what I believe to be right. And that is that this tiny country in the Middle East, which has tentacles going way out into America and into Europe and into Australia and all over the place.
The store, it's been set up because at any moment, these people could try to take us off of Rumble. They could try to take us down anywhere. We're protecting ourselves from advertisers becoming afraid to advertise with us because of our anti-Semitic hate speech. Speaking of which, Israel has done it again. Yeah, once again, the Israelis have taken out international humanitarian aid workers. They've killed them. They're dead. They carried out a deliberate airstrike as they tried bringing food to the Palestinian people of Gaza, who right now are starving to death en masse, dying of disease, dying of exposure and of wounds that have caused them this prolonged, unimaginable agony. A massive percentage of them are children. This platform is about fighting for children. And all of this death and all of these kids dying, it's all thanks to Israel's mega violent campaign against civilians, their scorched earth strategy to just ravage Gaza, to destroy the infrastructure, to kill and remove the people, to steal their land, and then to build it back in their own image, to their own ends, and their own profit. Every single day, Israel is indiscriminately bombing children in Gaza, launching artillery strikes, airstrikes, drone strikes, ground assaults that include the use of chemical nerve agents. And so, of course, caring people come to help. And when they come to help, when they come from other countries, including the United States, to care for the women and children and old people who've been displaced and wounded and starved by this war, they too fall prey to the Israelis. All of us remember at the start of this conflict, Israel told us outright, no aid will be allowed to Gaza. The Palestinians, they said, are nothing more than, quote, human animals, and they're to be treated as such. No food, no medicine, no fuel. Let them die. The Israelis were very open about their plans to send these Palestinians back to the Stone Age, to cause as much suffering and death as possible to soften their target, so that their paper army of TikTok freaks and limp wrists that are regularly equipped with diapers could walk right in and plant their Rainbow Star of David flag, the Star of Remphan, without being scared to death by kids with rocks. And now, because of international pressure and pressure from the United States, which largely emanates from the grassroots, they've had to allow a tiny trickle of humanitarian aid to come into Gaza. But as is usually the case, this aid is only really allowed on paper. In reality, when aid workers show up, they become fair game to the Israelis. They become targets, and then they become deceased. Slaughtered. Mowed down in cold blood. They become sitting ducks who are led right into the teeth of their predators. And so do the people that they're trying to help. This isn't new. They've been doing this for decades. That landmass in Gaza has been an open-air concentration camp. And these Israelis have just been allowed to get away with it. Because they're our greatest geopolitical ally. Don't you question them. 21 years ago, the Israelis killed American citizens with a bulldozer. A young idealistic woman who went to Gaza to call for peace, to call for an end to the violent Jewish colonization of Palestinian communities and the martial law that governed generations of civilians, and she was murdered by the Israelis. And what happened in response? Exactly nothing. No. As a matter of fact, the United States continued sending them money, continued fighting wars on their behalf, and since then, nothing has changed. It's only gotten worse, as a matter of fact. The Israelis have only gotten more brazen in carrying out these public displays of ethnic cleansing and genocide and mass murder. It was just over a month ago now that they murdered over 100 Palestinian civilians and wounded hundreds more. They mowed them down when they tried to pick up humanitarian aid. But you know, the news cycle is only about 24 seconds long. So everybody has forgotten about those people. Just forget about it. Go to soccer practice. Just make your meatballs for the spaghetti that you're having later. Don't worry about it. Don't use your social media to question the Israelis. No, because you want to mark yourself safe today from being an anti-Semite.
If Russia had done a fraction of what Israel have very clearly done, you'd probably have NATO in there. Or you'd certainly have, a call for war. We can't let these people go on in the same way that we've had the justification over the years for the invasions of Libya, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, based on what their governments were supposedly doing, most of which was just fabricated anyway. Meanwhile, Israel literally does whatever it wants. It kills civilians, it kills children, it bombs apartment blocks, just because, and nobody says anything. One thing that's interesting...
And more than that, it claims to be a victim. It's a professional victim. Oh, look, the world's against us. Well, I wonder why a lot of people are against you when you're mass murdering Palestinians in Gaza.
During the first weeks of the war, the Lavender system designated about 37,000 Palestinians as targets and directed airstrikes on their homes. Despite knowing that the system makes errors about 10% of the time, there was no requirement to check the machine's data. The Israeli army systematically attacked the targeted individuals at night, in their homes, while their whole family was present. An automated system known as Where's Daddy was used to track the targeted individuals and carry out bombings when they entered their families' residences. The obvious result was that thousands of women and children were wiped out by Israeli airstrikes. According to these Israeli intelligence officers, the IDF bombed them in homes as a first option. And on several occasions, entire families were murdered when the actual target was not inside. In one instance, 4 buildings were destroyed along with everyone inside because a single target was in one of them. When it came to targets marked as low level by the AI Lavender system, cheaper bombs were used, which destroyed entire buildings, killing mostly civilians and entire families. This was done because the IDF did not want to waste expensive bombs on who they deemed as unimportant people. It was decided that for every low-level Hamas operative that Lavender marked, it was permissible to kill up to 15 or 20 civilians. And if the target was
away with it, and there has to be a reason for that. Why has there not been a Israeli prime minister at a war crimes court? Why isn't Netanyahu? Look at his history. The times he's been Israeli prime minister, the times he's mercilessly bombed Gaza and overseen horrors going on in the West Bank.
Where analyzed information collected on the 2.3 million residents of the Gaza Strip through a system of mass surveillance, assessed the likelihood of each person being a militant, and gave a rating from 1 to 100. If the rating was high enough, then they were killed along with their entire family. Lavender flagged individuals who had patterns similar to Hamas, including police, civil defense, relatives, and residents who had similar names and nicknames. This sort of tracking system has existed in the US for years.
What I will be providing you and the fine gentleman of the Secret Service is a list of every threat made about the president since February 3rd.
Thank you for watching this Patriots Directory video. Please like, share, and subscribe. You are amazing in every way. You are handsome and brave. You are doing it up admirably. You make me incredibly happy. You are being rewarded by God Almighty. You are causing peace on earth. You are loved. I love you. You are being rewarded by God Almighty. You are causing peace on earth. You are loved. I love you. 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 You are doing it up admirably. You make me incredibly happy. You are being rewarded by God Almighty. You are causing peace on earth. You are loved. I love you.